With 85 votes, the majority has overthrown the President's decree for revising the law on private enforcement, but failed to reach the required number of votes for their request to dismiss the head of state. The urgent launch of dialogue between the majority and the opposition in a demonstration of political maturity was appealed for by the European Commission, aiming to resolve the crisis. DP Chair Lulzim Basha called for the opposition protests on July 8 to be peaceful, while issuing messages to his supporters to focus on engagement and participation in the highest possible numbers. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 4th of July, 2019. Good evening and thank you for tuning in to RTV Ora's English edition. My name is Alexandra, bringing you the only daily update of the local Albanian news translated into English. 4 days after the 30 June elections and with 85 votes in favour, Parliament abolished President Ilir Meta's first decree on revising the draft law on the private judicial enforcement service. However, the majority did not receive the number of votes required to approve the dismissal of the head of state, the act of which the Constitution stipulates must gain 94 votes in favour. During the session, the new opposition called for Damian Jiknuri's removal from the post of co-chair of the electoral reform over his alleged involvement in the interceptions of File 184 in Dibur. The new opposition believes that neither the Socialist Party nor the Democratic Party are interested in the establishment of the new justice institutions. On Monday afternoon, the majority will seek the establishment of an investigative commission into President Meta, charged with grave violations against the Constitution following his decree to annul the June 30 election date. One day after the President addressed the High Judicial Council to inform it about the vacancies for the High Court, the High Judicial Council announced a meeting to open the application process for candidates. At this meeting, the scoring system, which will be applied to all candidate judges, will be publicised. Currently, the High Court operates with only 2 members of the 9 that it requires. Even the head of the High Court, Jezair Zaganyori, has completed his mandate and his position in duty has been appealed with the appeals chamber. The other member, Ardian Dvorani, has also completed his mandate but will remain in duty until his replacement. Under these conditions, the caseload has largely remained untouched, with the backlog now stretching as far back as 32 months. 9 months after its establishment, the High Judicial Council has only made decisions at the command of judges who have determined cases as too difficult to adjudicate. Meanwhile, the process for the selection of High Court candidates has not ended, even though the constitutional deadlines have passed. The Justice Appointment Council members will meet on Friday, when they are expected to officially announce the launching of procedures for the appraisal, ranking and shortlisting of candidates for the Constitutional Court and the High Inspectorate of Justice. Currently, the Constitutional Court has only 1 member, Vittore Tusha, out of the 9 it requires. Also on Friday, the Council will develop a process for defining rapporteurs for the vacant positions. The European Commission wants to launch dialogue in Albania with the focus on continuing with key reforms, including electoral reform. Answering questions from the RTV Ora newsroom, the European Commission spokesperson assessed the June 30 elections as having been safe and secure, although the process last Sunday took place in the context of political division. The European Commission says it has taken into account all the preliminary remarks made by the OSCE ODIHR Election Observation Mission head. But the Commission calls on the newly elected local authorities to start working according to their constitutional competencies in order to benefit the citizens of the country. The European Commission has stressed repeatedly that the government and the opposition must demonstrate political maturity and urgently engage in constructive dialogue to overcome the current political situation. Brussels urges all Albanian institutions and political leaders to focus their efforts on the continued implementation of the reform process, including the resumption of the electoral reform initiated earlier, where ODIHR recommendations must be addressed. The European Commission concluded its Q&A session with RTV Ora by saying they believe that a true determination about the electoral process must be addressed soon by the Constitutional Court. As such, they are indicating that returning this key institution to a functional state is a major priority. The Western Balkans is an undeniable part of Europe and should be integrated as quickly as possible. This was the message from the Commissioner for European Neighbourhood Policy and Enlargement Negotiations, Johannes Hahn, as he opened the summit for the region, taking place on the 4th and 5th of July in Poznan, Poland. The EU official invited his counterparts to bring Albania and North Macedonia closer to the European Union without hesitation, as otherwise the credibility of the Union would be undermined. I stand by the Commission's recommendation to open accession negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia, and I count on the October Council to follow our positive assessment. Both countries have delivered on reforms, in particular in areas mentioned by the Council's conclusions, delivered in June 2018, said Hahn at the summit in Poznan. However, Hahn appealed to the Balkan leaders to strengthen democratic institutions and neighbourly relations and to cooperate more closely with the European family. With this case, he also recalled the trade barriers that Kosovo has set against Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, encouraging them to resolve the disagreements as soon as possible. The diplomatic initiative, organised these 2 days in the framework of the Berlin process that was initiated 5 years ago, is being attended by the Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and other officials of the Balkan candidate countries in the EU. Discussing the July 8th protest and the opposition agenda following the June 30th elections were the reasons for the Democratic Party leader, Lulzim Basha, to gather the Democratic Party chairmanship, allies and National Council today. The meetings were conducted behind closed doors, though it has been learned that Basha's message was to focus on the work required in the coming days to ensure the protest is a massive success, while also ordering that everything remain calm. The leader of the opposition has expressed that June 30th motivated the opposition to continue to battle for the removal of Edi Rama and to punish the politicians who stole the election. After the meeting, former Prime Minister Sali Berisha made a declaration to the media saying that the opposition's boycott of elections was a proper act, though praising the ODIHR report. Through the withdrawal of mandates, they refuse to become part of the ugly farce of narcotics, where drug barons and crime powers decide the fate of citizens. It is vital for the opposition to remain immaculate, said Berisha. The former Prime Minister referred to June 30 as the burial of democracy. Meanwhile, the Socialist Movement for Integration Chair, Monika Gruemardi, shares a difference of opinion to the DP leaders, demanding the defeated mayors vacate their offices without resistance. According to her, the fight against crime in power is more important than the mayor's chairs. Immediately after the meetings, Basha hastened to the airport, where he will be attending the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly in Luxembourg tomorrow. The President of the Republic, Ilir Meta, speaking on the occasion of the 243rd anniversary of the independence of the US, made another appeal for accountability and reflection in function of crisis resolution. In a status on Facebook, the head of state wished a happy Independence Day to the Albanian community in America, who, according to him, can contribute positively to Albanian-American relations. According to him, Albanians living in the United States are unimpressed with the domestic political climate, as such calling for more reflection and greater accountability. He also sent a letter to the US President, Donald Trump, for the occasion of the 243rd Independence Day. I would like to convey also, on behalf of the Albanian people, the most sincere and wholehearted congratulations to you on the occasion of the 243rd anniversary of the Independence Day. On this meaningful holiday, we wish plenty of success, peace and prosperity to both you personally and to all Americans, wherever they are. He also expressed his willingness for the further strengthening of bilateral strategic partnerships in the field of security and in NATO as well. We are ready for the further strengthening of bilateral strategic partnerships in the field of security and in NATO as well. And I believe that under your leadership, we will further strengthen these links and enhance our cooperation. Albania will stand in full solidarity with the United States and resolutely join your efforts in the multilateral forums serving the benefit of peace and prosperity around the world. Once again, happy United States Independence Day and all the best greetings to you, to your family and to the great American nation as well, concluded President Meta in his letter to US President Donald Trump. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of RTV Ora, thank you and good night.